I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
Lack of sex drive on TRT. What would be the cause of this? What can one do to improve, I guess, sex drive while on TRT?
You know, it amazes me when people tell me that because, you know, if you go from nothing, where you, let's say you're low, and I'm assuming you're going on TRT, you're boosting your testosterone by quite a bit. I don't know why people would lose their sex drive. Now, there is a couple of possibilities. A lot of times when people do take HRT, the clinic they're using will give them an estrogen aromatase inhibitor like Arimidex or Femara. And sometimes it lowers their estrogen too much. Low estrogen will definitely can kill your sex drive. But that's why I usually tell people if you're on HRT, I probably wouldn't take like Arimidex unless you're just a super crazy high estrogen converter. And on blood work, that's confirmed. Like you take 200 milligrams a week and you got like a 600 or 800, estrogen level. That's too high. But if you're in the normal or even in the high normal range, maybe even a little over, I probably wouldn't use it. I'd probably use a product like my Testalize product, which will limit DHT a little bit and will get rid of some estrogen, but not too much. And that's just an easier way to go. 3 pills twice a day. But that's usually the problem. Now, there are people who will sometimes stack other things with their HRT, like, oh, I'm taking a little Deca or I'm taking a little Trenbolone. Well, when you do that, those drugs raise prolactin levels, and prolactin can inhibit erections and can cause also some sex drive weirdness. So that's something to consider too. But this person is only indicating that they're on HRT. So I don't know why they would lose it. Now, having said that, I want to just make one statement. When you first start HRT, what it does initially is it shuts down your body. But it could, especially if you're taking Sipin and Anthate, but it could take 2 to 3 weeks before the Sipin and Anthate actually build up to high enough levels where they're higher than what your natural levels were. So there might be like a lag period of 2-3 weeks when you first start taking it that your sex drive might be a little down, but once it builds up in your system, that should be overridden. So he didn't really indicate how long he'd been on the HRT. That's something to consider. I also want to just state, I want to thank everyone because, our the Dave Palumbo Experience app has been getting a lot of traffic lately. I know a lot of people joined. I want to thank you for supporting it. I hope everyone's enjoying it. I answer everyone's questions in an open forum in there. Pick the best questions. We do a Q&A video on the app. We put up a workout every week, and every video and everything I've ever written is in that app too. So it's a great resource. You can download that at iTunes or Android store. Thank you for that.
Let's go to, I'm going to try to save this one to the end of the show. There's another one here from our Facebook list. Oh, from Rick Harbens. He wants you to discuss muscle building genetics. And then he says, and muscle insertions and bone thickness. So I guess as those relate as far as the overall picture of muscle building genetics.
Say that one more time.
So he wants you to talk about muscle building genetics overall, but then I guess as a corollary to that, he's talking also about muscle insertions and bone thickness.
I think I guess both components are genetic in a sense, because if you have good muscle building genetics, in other words, the ability to add muscle to your body in response to resistance training, I mean, there's a genetic component to that. We all know that. Some people grow better than others. Some people grow faster than others. That's completely separate from what your structure is. So you might have a horrible structure for bodybuilding, but you might add muscle real easily, and you might get big, and you might even get really lean real easily, but it might not look that good. Whereas there might be another person who has great structural genetics. In other words, they have wide clavicles, they have a small waist, they have a good sweep, they have that X frame, and they may not put muscle on easily at all. And so they might have a great shape, but they never have enough muscle. But every once in a while, you get someone who comes along that can do both. Kevin Levrone, Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, Flex Wheeler, Phil Heath. And those are the guys that rise to the top and they win, the titles. And that's just the way bodybuilding works. There's a huge genetic component that you cannot overcome. That's your insertions, your ability to put muscle on. And then there's hard work. If you can combine all those things in one, you get the superstars. And so that's just how it works. I had above average genetics. Obviously, I had very good genetics for getting lean and ripped and vascular. And my work ethic enabled me to put on massive amounts of muscle and be impressive looking. But I wasn't structurally as good as the names I mentioned before, so I couldn't beat those guys. And that's just the way it is. It's tiered, you know. At the very top, it's a small percentage of people that are up there. And that's just reality. And it's hard as a bodybuilder because you give 100% to the sport you love. And at some point, you know, you realize, and it takes a while until you get to that top, until you add all that muscle to your body, you realize, you know what? I don't think I'm going to win that. I don't think I'm going to win the Olympia. I better have a plan B, you know. Or some people just like competing, you know. There are guys that just are happy to win, you know, the qualifier shows or place top 5. And that would have been me, you know, if I would have turned pro. I would have been more than happy to place top 5 at like New York Pro or something like that if I could do it. And other people, you know, their goal is to win. If they can't win, they don't want to compete. So it really is very individualistic. And it's a hard question to answer because I don't want to tell anyone that you can't be a great bodybuilder, because a lot of people don't even know what their genetics are until they actually try. So try to be the best you can be, see what comes of it.
Let's go to Jose Luis Robello. How to deal with test prop soreness and inflammation in the site injection?
Test propionate is nasty stuff. It really, you know what? Early in my career, I was able to take a little test propionate, and I don't know if it was buffered differently when it was made by the American, you know, pharmaceutical companies, but probably the second half of my career, if I took one shot of test propionate, I would get flu-like symptoms. I would get a fever. Wherever I injected it, the injection site would be like, it felt like someone hit me with a hammer there. My whole arm would be swollen, or my glute or my lat, wherever I put it. And I just at some point said to myself, this is not worth it. There's plenty of other testosterone. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to take long-acting testosterone like Cipra and Athate. Doesn't hurt. I have no problems with it. It keeps my blood levels real stable. There's no reason to use propionate. Testosterone is testosterone. And that was the conclusion I came to. I never had another problem. Now, every once in a while, I took a shot of something and I felt that soreness, and I knew that whatever I was taking probably had prop in it, and maybe it was fake or something like that. But some people, I know guys who can take test propionate, they have no problem with it whatsoever. But it does seem that everyone has a little bit of sensitivity to it. How much sensitivity you have is really determined, you know, individualistically. So if it hurts, don't use it. There's plenty of other testosterones to use.